Good morning. Good to see everybody. Continuing on in our 40 sermons in 40 days. Every morning at 9 a.m. A new sermon and a message to help us get through this thing. Man, it's like, it's almost been a month. I think we're 3 weeks into when we started the quarantine. And, this is going to be a challenging week. And so I thought every day, man, this is as much for me as it is for you, that if I get up every morning and really search for what I need today, and then I broadcast it, then maybe it helps somebody. But you do 40 sermons in 40 days, it keeps you kind of focused. And so I just want to thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you get something out of it. Today, if this thing helps you, or if you think of somebody that might need it, just share it. It's so easy. Just make a comment, because I see you. And what's up, Vicky, Patty, Chad? And it encourages me, but I just want to give this, man. This is, what can you do today? There's a question. What's one thing you could do today that would help you draw closer to Him and help you come out of this thing stronger? The idea is to come out of this with a softer heart, with a clear focus, and having, this is a spiritual boot camp. We didn't ask for it, couldn't plan for it, never seen it before, but man, life, this is historic what we're going through. You realize years from now we're going to tell people about what this was like. And I'd love it if everybody had a story, man. That is when I found my faith. That's when it got real, because man, I was pressed, I was stretched, I was squeezed, and man, that's when you find out what's inside. If you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice. Man, you squeeze a human being, you find out what's inside. And how can we change if we can't see what's inside? I mean, it's the times of testings, it's the storms that reveal the character, that reveal the relationship. Right now, I guarantee you, our marriages are being revealed. Is there intimacy? Is there friendship? Can we serve one another? Can we encourage one another? Can we de-escalate when the tension gets high? And brothers, I want to challenge you, and I'm challenging myself. Now's the time we got to lead our families spiritually. Let them see something they ain't never seen before. Let this hero emerge. And all the beautiful sisters out there, oh man, thank you so much for taking care of the men. I want you to understand this is a heavy, heavy time for a man. It's heavy for all of us. But God has really called us to lead our families, and not just to support them physically, financially, provide safety and security, but really spiritual leadership. And I want all of us to come out of this thing saying, man, I have a story to tell. Let me tell you what happened when the storm hit. This thing, man, it can make you into what you've always dreamed that you could be. As always, my faithful partner, Roots, he was a branch laying on the ground until somebody saw him and saw what he could be, a beautiful little homeless friend of mine that put this nasty branch on a world tour and brought the beauty inside outside. And so that's why he's my partner, man. I got to preach with Roots. Okay, this morning I'm going to look at another encounter that Jesus had as he made his way along. And this one, you might remember, is called the rich young man. It says, this is Mark chapter 10, verse 17. As Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees. Good teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Why do you call me good? Jesus answered, no one's good except God alone. You know the commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not give false testimony, do not defraud, honor your father and mother. Teacher, he declared, all these I've kept since I was a boy. Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said. Go sell everything you have and give it to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. We find another encounter. Jesus made his way, and it was one individual at a time. Yeah, he fed the masses, and yeah, he preached the Sermon on the Mount, and yes, he went into the temple, and man, he took a whip and he challenged the Pharisees and the religious elite that didn't care about the little people, the least of these. And he was that. He was a rock star. There was great crowds. But if you watch him, in his day-to-day, he came across individuals, and it was eyeball to eyeball, heart to heart, and it was always what the other person needed, their one thing. As you hear, every day, we're 2 weeks into 40 sermons in a row, and I've talked a lot about what's our one thing, because I think if we conquer that one thing, it'll set us free. I was telling my son, we're having to do this relationship, virtual. And I'm like, dang, this is hard. You want to be with your kids. And he's a young man. He's trying to find his way. And I said, son, man, every hero's got to go on a journey. The hero's journey. And out there, you got to slay some dragons. You got to win some maidens. And you got to take the castle. And you got to find out who you are. So that when you come back from that journey, man, you're the hero. You've been tested strong. And now you can lead that castle. You can take care of that maiden. And you can tame the dragon. And see, this is a hero's journey, all of us. We don't ask for it. Pain is what makes us strong. Not the good times, not the comfortable times. And this is making people ask some questions that maybe they hadn't asked. Trying to find a God that maybe they don't know as well as they thought they did. And here's an example of this young man. Man, I see him as young, successful. It's kind of like the young millennial. Young millennials are beasts, man. They've mastered technology. They know how to get their answers. They're problem solvers. They want to hear a voice. They want to change the world. They want to feel like it's their idea. They have something to say. They've got ideas that boomers, I'm the last year of the baby boomer. You believe that? I don't feel like a boomer. But anyway, this millennial mind is a beast. And we've got these young people that are strong and they're brilliant and they're beautiful. And they think they know all things just like we did when we were young, 20-something, 30-something. But man, they've got toys that we did not master. And they're creating wealth. And we've got this young generation that's motoring through life, singularly focused on getting paid. And they're believing the lie that we've taught them that money is going to make them happy. And that is such a lie. You know it's a lie. They go back and they interview Powerball winners. Won $148 million, hit that number. And all of us are like, man, I can't even go to the store and get one. I never play, but I always want to win. You can't win if you don't play. But anyway, you hit that number. They go back, I don't know who they are, and they find out, man, how's the quality of your life 1 year after you hit that number? And you know what? Over half say, I wish I had never won, because it gave me 148 million reasons to be unhappy. And divorce is almost 100% with those people that win. Suicide goes up, addiction skyrockets, depression, anxiety. Money is not the answer, and yet we keep believing it is. And now all of a sudden, boom, it's gone for a lot of people. Even rich people are starting to lose that thing as they watch the stock market. It's a crazy time. So this was the Bible version of the young millennial, sharp, talented, bright. He's got the money, he's got everything, and he's got his religion. And yet something brought him to Jesus, and as he traveled along, he said he fell on his knees. That was a very good posture. He was submissive, he was humble. He said, good teacher. I don't know if he knew who Jesus was. He was more than a good teacher. But he said, teacher, rabbi, teach me. And he's in a very humble position. Maybe it was sincere. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know what the guy was going through. Maybe all of a sudden something had happened in his life and the love of his life left. Or maybe he's got young children at home and he's scared to death. Or maybe, I don't know what brought him, but different things will bring people to Jesus when they get beaten into a state of reasonableness. And so he was humble, maybe, I don't know, but he wanted an answer that was the one that he was seeking. You ever do that? You ever talk to enough people until somebody gives you the answer that you wanted in the first place? You ever search for it online to back up your position on something, make you feel a little better? I do, everybody does. We rationalize things, we procrastinate things, we justify things, we got our good story, we got our sad story about why we struggle with that. No judgment. Man, we got other people to blame, we got the best sophisticated excuses why I'm not where I need to be, whatever. So something drove this to him. Something, not just this pandemic, is driving you to him. This is just time and space for you to be able to go to him with your one thing. And it can't be general, it's got to be specific. And so he comes to him and he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? I've got everything. Man, I got the ride and I've got the nice place and I got all these friends and people. I'm the man. But what do I got to do to make sure that I'm right with him? Because I got to get all my boxes checked. And Jesus, I love how cool he is. He said, you know the answer to that. Yeah, I mean, you're a religious guy. You know what the book says. Just obey it. You know, I mean, take care of your parents, man. Don't tell lies, man. Don't cheat your brothers. Don't, you know, it just goes through the list. Check, 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 check. And you can see the young man, he's going, all right, I think I'm good. Because, man, all of those I've kept since I was a boy. You might look at that and say, I don't know, man. Can anybody really keep it? Paul said he was legalistically faultless. Okay, the law was in place to drive us to the Messiah when he would come. The law is in place to show us that we can't do it. I mean, we can't do it in a world that tells you just buck up, man. I mean, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can do this, just work hard. At some point you get to the end of yourself and you're like, man, I can't work any harder. I keep saying I'm going to change this. It doesn't change. Man, I keep saying I'm going to do this again and I do it again. And so here we are once again. Right posture. What do I got to do to get right? And then Jesus says, all right, you want to know? He says, go sell everything you have. Give it all to the poor, and then come on the road with me. I mean, think about the invitation that he was giving this man. Come on the road with me. Think about the things he'd have seen. Was he going to be one of the apostles, or was he going to be, you know, written down in history as a great servant that served Jesus, took care of a band of brothers? I don't know what he could have done, but he had a job offer right here. A lot of people looking for one of those right now. Somebody see me, I just lost mine. And you know, what are we going to do? That was this man. He had all the boxes checked. What do you do when religion isn't enough? You know, a lot of us, maybe we've skated on through because times have been good. We've been in an economic, you know, really a market that's been going higher and higher and higher and setting records. And now all of a sudden, nature has a way of dealing with things. Man, this planet has a way to cleanse herself. I don't see this as a curse from God. I don't see it as something where he's punishing us because of our deeds. I think he says, you reap what you sow. And we are reaping. And we're killing this planet. We're killing one another. We're going to war in the name of God. We're fighting over oil. Man, we're mistreating people because of the shade of our skin. None of us chose where we grew up or what color our skin is. We learn that we're different. We protect and we hoard and we fight and we're easily offended. And now we have these social media platforms. We got a lot of things we get offended about. Tensions are high, fight or flight, adrenaline's pumping, we're ready to go. And then all of a sudden we're like, man, what happened to my religion? I can't go to church anymore. And online, I don't know, it ain't doing it for me. I don't have the human connection. Okay, this is good. Nothing that's happening is good, but Mother Nature is cleansing. And you can see the Himalayas now for 230 miles. Hadn't been seen since World War II. You know, there's fish in the canals in Venice that used to be filled with just darkness. You know, on San Francisco in the Bay, all of a sudden, pollution is lifting and there's more creature life coming in. I mean, the Mother Nature in this beautiful planet has a way to revive itself really quickly. I watched something last night about Chernobyl and that disaster that happened back in 1986, and that spot for 20,000 years is what they said. Nobody used this spot 20,000 years. Within 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, nature is thriving there. It's all grown up around that city, buildings with trees, and there's wildlife and crazy animals that are inhabiting this space. Nature is not nervous, and she will win the day. I wonder if we're going to learn anything from this, about how we treat one another, how we take care of the least of these, how we take care of this planet God gave us. Man, just because we have technology, we ain't supposed to ruin everything. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like, man, it was a lot simpler in the 70s. I don't mind having one phone that hung in the kitchen. I don't mind not being able to communicate with my friends. It got me outside. Man, I couldn't wait to go outside and play. Sports, running in the woods. I grew up in the woods, climbing trees and rope swings and playing in the creek and jumping in lakes, riding our bikes. be in when the street lights come on. It was so simple. Ain't nobody worried about us getting in trouble. We're too tired to get in too much trouble. Technology. We're just looking for simpler and easier and convenient. Man, make it easier for me. Now Amazon, don't even have to leave the house. I can talk to you without ever even seeing you. Technology. I mean, it's great if we can save all the problems and use it for good, but man, we have ravaged this planet, and now she's hurting. And I believe she's fighting for us. So here's this guy, he's checked all his boxes, and all of a sudden, man, it didn't work for him. Something drove him to Jesus, something is driving you, and it's not just the virus, it's like a soul sickness, where it's time for us to draw near to him and find a relationship we didn't have. And so he says, all right, you really, really want to be close to me? You want intimacy with me? Deal with your one thing. And his one thing was money. See, money, man, it helps us not suffer physically, but we create psychological drama that's just as intense. I've been to different places in the world and seen the worst poverty in Africa and Asia and Eastern Europe and down in Latin America, in the streets of America. I've seen desperate poverty. And you know what I don't see as much? Not quite as much like depression, the way we have it, or anxiety, the way we have it, or just psychological pain. I see physical suffering, which makes them tough. And they hang together and they serve one another, and is there problems? Of course there's problems. But I'm just saying, out here in the free world, in the nice places, man, we suffer here. Start creating drama. And so he said, all right, I'm gonna touch you where it hurts. Boom. Let's deal with your money. Now, that wasn't what he was expecting. He's like, man, I go to church every Sunday. I even go on Wednesday nights. And I'm part of a small group. I have my little quiet time every morning. I write my check and tithe. You know, I give to a homeless guy. When I see him, I'll give him a couple bucks. I got all the things checked. I'm good, right? And he's like, do you want intimacy with me? Where you can go through hell and still be close. When you mess up, you understand grace. Man, there's a place you can get to where it's intimacy. And I want that. Ain't none of us figured it out. But this is a valuable time. What do you do when religion is not enough? You deal with your one thing. And he knows what that one thing is. You know, he goes on, and I won't read it, but just right before he meets this young man, children were running to Jesus. And the disciples were trying to stop him and saying, hey, the teacher's busy. Keep the kids away from him. Deal with those kids. You know how we do. And he said, let the little children come to me. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Unless we change and become like little children, we'll never even see the kingdom. Yeah, the rich young man, self-important, wealthy, religious, check, check, check. And then you have the heart of a child, just wants to play, always trust to a fault. Get into a little tussle and forgive real quick. Don't see colors. Money doesn't mean nothing to a little kid. It's like he says, you've got to become like that. And there's going to be times when you're going to be pressed and you're going to figure out that it's about simplicity. I'm going to finish one story. You know, I kept saying, I go where I'm invited. And I would tell whole crowds, I go where I'm invited. And that got me invited, golly, around the world, different places. So one time this lady came up to me and she said, you go where you're invited, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, would you like to scale down a building? And I said, no. And she said, it's for a good cause. I said, what's that? Suicide and overdose prevention. And I'm like, dang it. How am I going to say no to that? And so I said, all right. So our oldest, Justin, who's a former soldier and can do this stuff in his sleep, he takes this old dude. And it was 23 stories high. I'm talking about a high-rise down in Buckhead. And we're going to scale down it with the help of professionals. Man, I ain't crazy about heights. It was easier to jump out of an airplane in 2009 than do this because you can see the ground. And so anyway, it came time and we got up top and I mean, adrenaline's pumping, fight or flight, don't do this, human beings don't bounce. And so I started on the way. Well, right before I'd gone up to the top of that building, they said, who are you going to dedicate this climb to? The opposite of climbing, this fall to. And I said, my father, Johnny Howard Cummings. He died in 1988 to this disease. to the disease of addiction messed me up. Loved my dad, missed my dad. And I was headed down that same road. That was my one thing. So I told him I didn't think about it. So I'm coming down, and all of a sudden, about halfway through, I get stuck. I mean, I just got to get stuck. It ain't easy like they make it look like it. These paratroopers coming down. I mean, it's challenging. So about halfway down this high rise, I'm down there, and all of a sudden, I heard on the speaker, news was down there, Fox was down there. There's all these people. Come on, you can do it. And I heard them say, coming down now is Kit Cummings, and he's climbing for his father, who died in 1988, Johnny Howard Cummings. And I heard that. You got to understand, that was my one thing. That was where my pain was. This was years ago, but it was significant. I wasn't planning on this. And all of a sudden I heard them blast my father's name from the rooftops. I honored him that day. But when I got stuck, I heard this little voice, and it was, Papa, Papa. And I could hear it, one little voice. And I managed to look down, which is not what you're supposed to do. And I saw my grandson, Jesco. And he was saying, come on, Papa, you can do it. So I got my Father above that is healing me as I scale. And I got the next generation below that's cheering me on. And man, I managed to figure it out, and I got down that dang building, and I got to the ground, and it was like, in that climb, God did something to my heart. Man, it's not too late for you to become the person you always dreamed you could be. Man, you got people that have gone before you that are cheering you on. You've got the next generation saying, come on, Pops. Man, be who you need to be so I can be what I need to be. I need a role model. And he touches that one thing. Be like Jesco. I mean, a simple heart, a pure heart. It ain't about money, race, religion, politics, gender. That's just details. It's about the heart. Who are you really? Man, if you feel like the branch, it's time to become. But you got to deal with your one thing. Is it your marriage? Deal with it. Is it greed? Deal with it. Is it an addiction? Man, we were climbing down. 23 million families that we know about are dealing with this thing called addiction. Man, deal with it. You've got time. One thing. Jesus is looking at you saying, what's your one thing? You don't even have to think about it. You know it. I know it too. Let's deal with it. 40 sermons in 40 days. If you like it, comment. Please share it. Send this to somebody and go to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to build the dang thing. It's Kit Cummings on YouTube, and I'm going to post these daily messages. You guys are awesome. You get me up every day. And I'm going to keep coming with this, so pray for you, boy. We're all in this together. Let's get through it. Deal with your one thing and make sure and love your wife. Peace.